The resurrection of the body is a difficult and thorny belief. When Paul, if you look at the Acts of the Apostles, when Paul preached to the Athenians, to the Greek philosophers, that's when they shut him up. When he got to the part about the resurrection, they said, "Get out of here. Come back next week. We'll talk about it again." Because, they, Greeks, as we know from our own Western philosophy, believe in the immortality of the soul, but the body, forget it. That was finished. And, even some Christians you find, you say, even though we say in the Creed we believe in the resurrection of the body and life everlasting, they're still sometimes surprised when they say, we're going to have our bodies. Jesus has his body, and so will we. They're still a little surprised. And you can understand, as I say, it's a bit thorny in itself, but also it's not part of the Hebrew tradition. It's not in the books of the what we call in the Hebrew scriptures, except for a few prefigurations and nuances, that seem to move in that direction, like today's psalm. That last line where, I will be satiated when I wake. When I rise, I shall be satisfied with your likeness. I will behold your presence. So that's, an indication, but it's not clear. Today's passage, the first reading, is from the book of Maccabees, which is not part of the formal scriptures. It's from the 2nd century BC, the persecution by the Greeks, Antiochus Epiphanes, where the boys and their mother were martyred, for following the Mosaic Law. Which is why, in the gospel today, the Sadducees, who only accept the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, as we say, those first 5 books of the Bible, they don't believe in the resurrection because it's not in the tradition. So they lay this little trap for Jesus, saying, well, if there's a resurrection, when suppose a woman had 7 husbands, whose wife is she going to be? Now, the Levirate law that they're quoting is that as you heard, if a man dies with a childless, his brother should marry the widow and raise up children for his brother so that they don't lose, the clan and its possessions and all of that. Can you imagine? Good thing we don't follow that today. Can you imagine? Someone in your family dying and the brother, the uncle, the cousin has to go and marry the... Wow. That would raise a few eyebrows. But the thing is, you say, how naive are they? Well, how naive are we when we picture what the resurrection is supposed to be? Even the first reading there, where the boys are saying, well, I received these hands from the Lord, and I scorn them now. They're going to get chopped off, as they're being martyred, but I'll get them back when we rise, and the Lord will raise us up to live again in his presence. It almost sounds like you could take that to mean, well, we'll just get our bodies back. We're here in this world. The immortal soul gets infused down into the body like some finished product or smoke, or I don't know, you see in Harry Potter when they pull the soul out, it's like some substance, as if it's, that's all it is, and it's ready-made. We have a soul, we get a soul. Wow, I have a soul. And I got to save it. And then I save it, and it goes up to heaven, and then after a while we just get our body back, and we just continue the way we were before. Really? That doesn't sound very interesting. But I think that's the way a lot of people imagine it. So you can imagine the naivete. That's why Jesus says, no, it's going to be totally different. You're not going to die anymore, so you don't have to have kids to continue the generations because there's no more death. So that's one part of it. And the other thing is you don't marry and get married at all because we don't live the same way as before. I mean, your loved ones will be known and loved, but it's not as before. So it's not, when we come to a funeral, we don't come and can't reassure people and say, well, Aunt Sylvia just died, but we'll meet her again in heaven and she can continue baking her apple pie every Sunday and we'll... Please. No, we're going to be different. That's what Jesus means when he says we're children of God. We're going to be like angels. We're going to be children of the resurrection. What does he mean? What does he mean by that? We're going to be like angels. Angels don't even have bodies, according to most theologians. That's not what it means. But it means it's going to be totally transformed. Our bodies will be totally transformed. The way Christ's resurrected body is not just a resuscitation of a corpse, but a whole new dimension of reality that allows him to be anywhere, anytime, to be on all the altars and tabernacles of the world at the same time, bodily. It's totally different and so much more expansive. If you read 1 Corinthians 15, there's a long description of the resurrected body, which nobody ever quotes because they don't understand it. And Paul mentions several qualities of the resurrected body that St. Thomas Aquinas later categorized and made a whole theology out of. It's a spiritual body. Well, what does that mean? Well, find out. It means it can't suffer anymore. It's not subject to pain, or suffering of any kind. It's spiritual because it's subtler. It's like energy. Modern physics helps us to understand, astrophysics helps us to understand this better, How we can be physical energy, but not limited the way it is now. It's spiritual, it's subtlety, as he called it, clarity, he calls it. So it's light, it's like radiance, like the transfiguration, like Jesus rising from the dead. So the energy is so powerful, it's just radiating all around. That's your body, not just your soul. And it can move, agility, it can move from one end of the universe to the other like that. Just like speed of light, or like light. Physical, as well as spiritual. And while we're on the subject, the soul is not some ready-made thing. The contemporary writer Cynthia Bourgeault writes very well about this. The soul is a seed almost, really. The soul is not something we start with. It's something we end with. Yes, we get a spiritual essence, but our whole life is a development of soul. We live a soulful life, and our soul is developed and expands in ever greater compassion and love and joy and openness to the world and to God and to others. And our bodies are part of that. Everything we do in the soul is also done by the body because, as Thomas Aquinas says, it's all just one being. You can't separate them out. You don't just pour a soul into a body. We're ensouled bodies. We're one thing. So everything we do is adding to, or should be adding to, or not, who we become. A truly soulful being, a truly embodied being. So that in the end, we're ready to just explode, body and soul. It's what they call the resurrection body, which really is our soul in its final form, as in Jesus Christ. Wow! Who knew? So that's what we have to be faithful to moment by moment, so that our whole body and soul are evolving and expanding into what we're going to fully be. And if it sounds mysterious, well, it is mysterious. We can have a taste of it already. We can experience even in our bodies, as well as our hearts and minds and souls, this lightness, this expansiveness, this radiance, this openness, this joy, which is already heaven, already a taste of heaven. So that's what Jesus is talking about. That's what Jesus is and represents today. We're truly alive. God is the God of the living, as Jesus concludes by saying, quoting the book of Exodus to convince the Sadducees who only accepted that book, remember. So let's be truly alive. Let's realize our life is not just given to us, to hold on to or to save. It's made to develop and expand and grow and embrace the whole universe, become one with the whole universe, just like the risen Christ. That's what our destiny is. That's who we really are. So let's try and understand that and live that more deeply every day.